Oh, okay. All right. I know. Do you need a translation for that? No, that's fine. No.
There are many competitors for you. Do you have any plan to fight against? Fight against for other competitors.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Do you need to repeat that question? Or?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I got it. So the question is basically like, do you plan to, like, you have a lot of competition in the market, so do you plan to do anything to, go against the competition? How do you fight against the competition in the market?
Well, our goal is right now to come up with some new switches or new product lines every year to stay at the forefront of innovation and also to entice new customers and bring back old customers to try out new products. So actually, we are currently in development for a new type of tactile switch. We're going to be trying out and hopefully maybe go into clicky maybe, because that's the only switch type that we haven't went into yet.
新しいタイプのタクタイルスイッチを開発しようとしているらしい。
Are they going to do better than Topre?
Oh, yeah, are there any Topre reps?
It's not a good place to say you don't like Topre. I think we have Topre people in the room as well.
Well, with all things switches, it is personal preference. So if I think it is, other people might not think it's better, but it's okay because that's what's great about this keyboard hobby.
Okay. Any more questions? Okay. So,
So with the, I know it's a little bit of a sensitive subject, but with the KDB fan situation where they were selling counterfeit switches, how is that something that came to your attention? How did you first find out about it? And what was your recourse as a company with KBD fans selling their pictures?
Okay, well, so around this time, or maybe a bit earlier, around April or May 2018, we were getting a few private messages from certain individuals that are deep within the Chinese community, QQ groups. And at that time, we were seeing private group buys for Helios that had, or even Zelios that had almost identical packaging, like in the bulk boxes that Garon ships in, almost looked identical. And even up to the logo on the boxes for packaging were copied. So we saw these pictures and then we report back to Garon, has a lot of discussion, and of course, their own internal. We spoke with the manager and our sales rep, and they guaranteed us that they did not send out any shipments, and every shipment that goes through every switch that we produce and order goes through our sales rep directly, and no one else can ship it. So at that time, it was really awkward, and then we kept trying to investigate, trying to order switches, but then at the same time, a lot of people, they don't want to be involved in this mess where they say, hey, can I order some switches so I can ship them to Garon to investigate? So I had to go through multiple parties, and then that took a while. Eventually, when we did get our hands onto it, there were some notable molding marks that were different, and that's what brought it to attention.
Okay. It seems like it's too hard to translate into Japanese. Okay. We have one more question.
So I have two questions. One question is, so recently you've and they were the Curios and Rosalios that had like different colored stems to the helios. So I was wondering if you would do like a different colored housing, because there are some people who prefer like black housings over transparent ones. So I was wondering if there's any possibility of that.
I'm not sure if we'll do any custom colored housings because part of the smoothness of our switches comes from the plastic formulation of our switches, and also as part of the aesthetic as well as the, I guess, lighting. The lighting below RGB or any type of single colored LED goes better with the housing. I understand that there's different sound profiles that you get with a denser plastic, and that's also something we've always been hearing and deciding, but ultimately, for the time being, I think the housing color won't be changing.
All right. Any more? By the way, the guy right here is looking for Panda Red. So if you can reissue some Panda Reds, I don't know. If you,
What do you mean Panda Reds?
oh, you don't sell Panda Red. Sorry. Wrong supplier. Excuse me.
That's not what it is.
Yeah, I've been away from the hub for a while. Anyway, any more questions? Any more questions? No, no. Oh, okay.
じゃあ、日本語で、確か G 用のキャッチコピーだと思うんですけど、オートアタック、アイマン、スピードハンターっていうなんか謎の、画像があって、あれが結構好きなんですけど、あれのポスターとかデスクマットとかステッカーとか出ませんか？
なるほど。それは。
So is there any plan to have new products of auto otak, speed hunter goodies? How can I say?
Do you plan to do any like posters or desk mats of the artwork that you have on your website?
Oh.
How about the Tiffany desk mat?
Well, the Tiffany thing might be a sensitive subject with a copyright. So probably not for that one. And I've looked into desk mats, but shipping it worldwide is just the main issue. Like the price, unit pricing is very cheap, but just getting something so heavy across the world can be difficult, especially since couriers like DHL and UPS, FedEx, all these private couriers, they don't want you to ship in a circular poster tube. They want it in triangle, and then their triangular tubes are always huge, so they charge you extra money for it.
Oh. Okay. So shipping shipping is too expensive.
Yeah, shipping will cost like multiple times per product.
値段が高くなっちゃう。
All right. Do you have any last questions? Last questions? No. Okay, one more. Or was there another one? Okay. Okay, I can take a couple of questions.
Oh, just a question regarding the tactile, not tactile, the clicky switch that you mentioned. Any sneak peek information?
Well, it's just something I'm toying with, so I don't have any final products or any like new information I can share. It's just something that we're looking into, and if all things go well, it will be one of our next lineups.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any more questions? Any more questions? No. Oh, okay.
There's one in the back.
Okay.
Hi, I'm a rubber of speed switches and light switches, like Gatron Clear and car speed strobe. And I'm looking for other key switches with more lighter springs, but now I have to swap the switch springs by myself. Any plan to make lighter edition of Theorius or Theorius?
For lighter spring switches, like walking away 45 or.
I'm looking for 30 grams or lighter.
Oh, 30 grams. I'm not sure how popular that weight is in general because with producing switches, has to be a certain type of volume in order for it to be more feasible. 30 grams spring weight is considered on the very extreme, on the lightweight side. So it might just be easier to just get Caterham clear springs and then swap them in, unfortunately. And also, there's also another problem. On tactile switches, on highly tactile switches, if you go too light, such as 30 grams, the spring won't be able to overcome the leaf and the stem won't pop back up. So around 40 to 45 grams is when the stem starts slowing down, and I think at 30 grams it might not even pop up.
Okay, last questions? Last question. Oh, okay.
What type of keyboard are you using? Format or layout or spricket? And also, what switch are you using?
Not top rate.
Unfortunately, it's not top rate. I am using my Zephyr keyboard. I brought two Computex this year. It's a Midnight Blue Zephyr with 67 gram deep silence. Actually, I alternate between two Zephyrs. So one's 67 gram Helios and the other is 67 gram silent. I prefer silent switches.
All right. So if we have no more questions, let's give a hand to Zero PC. Thank you very much. Yep. Do you have any last remarks?
We've got a sale going on, 20% off our switches, and we use free shipping. So it will most likely be DHL Express to
Wait,
Japan
free
as well,
shipping?
Unless, yeah, free shipping over
To Japan? Okay.
Yes,
I'm
shipping
gonna.
over US dollars.
Oh, wow.
And our site also supports Japanese yen as well. If you check out my credit card, not my.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, and hopefully see you at Computex.
Yeah, hoping to see you.
Yep. All right.
Bye.
See you. So now we're going to have the next workshop thing from Tex. Tex. Where is it, Tex? Okay, please come here. And okay. And I just need to bring up the text from the. One second. Oh, okay. I can just go. Yeah, you can just use my laptop.
Hello, I'm Justin from CAS, and hello everybody come to here. 谢谢大家来这边，这是this is our translator. I will speak Chinese and maybe some English, and she will translate it to Japanese that everybody will can know what I say, because my English maybe not really good. So I prepared one. This is this is our story why we want to make this keyboard for English. So everybody can, if you are my English not really good, you can see this. They might be good because I pay money to some guys in translator to English. Yes. Okay. So okay, let's go up. Okay. So our first keyboard is the Yoda one. This is the we made it by in 2014. Yeah, And this is our first mechanical keyboard with trip point. This is a 60%, and this keyboard made by CNC case is this almost like a DIY. We sell some keyboard to some people, but this got many problems here because the trip point module is not really good, and the price is really high. But we're really glad that some people support us and encourage me to make another one.
So, 最初のキーボードは、ヨダです。で、作るの時間は2014年です。で、それは完璧のキーボードじゃなくて、いろいろ修正があります。あとは、DIY のそのアイディアがちゃんと入っているっていうキーボードです。で、そのキーボードを作るの間でいろんな人を助けることがもらいました。で、そのキーボードが作りました。
在接下来之后，我们有针对 Yoda One 的一些问题，然后改进了，然后做了新的一个版本叫 Yoda Two。那 Yoda Two 的最大差异性是，它采用了外形几乎是一样，但是它有用了一些USB Type C， 那 LED backlight，and 还有就是整台键盘是可以做可程式化。那它可程式化的方式，不是安装任何的软体，也没有安装任何的 driver， 它是透过一个 Web 的 configurator。那你在 Web 上去定义你要的东西之后，下载下来。那键盘本身它可以 translator to， 就是一个它可以转换成 HID 的 USB storage， 把你下载下来的 configurator 直接丢进去之後，它就可以简单的做到可程式化的方式。
ヨーダは1と2がありますで、1と2サイダーの違うの方は、2の方はいろいろのファンクションが追加しました。例えば、Type C の、インプットが追加されていると、ウェブサイトっていう画面がありますで、その画面で、キーボードの、フレームワークが、フレームワークじゃない、プレイメンが変わることができるで、自由な自分が好きの、テンプレが作ることができるで、その作ったのテンプレはちゃんとファイルをダウンロードできるで、そのキーボードは USB のメモリを変わることができるで、そのダウンロードしたのファイルを入れて、ちゃんとその設定したの、テンプレート変わることができるで、これが一番、1と2と一番違うの場所と、ほぼ他の方は結構、そのままの表記は同じですけれど、やっぱりチェックペッドはいろいろな、モデルが更新しましたと、キーキャップの、使い心地もアップデートしました。
前年刚好是 ThinkPad 品牌的25 years, and they got a new laptop is 25 years. That is the project name is a Time Machine. They made a 7-row keyboard in this laptop. I think maybe only made 2,000 few pieces for that. And after that, we see this one and make us want to do the real 7-row keyboard, but in this time we can't do that because some problems here. The big problem is one is a triple module, the other one is the Keycap size. So you can see this photo. We made this one first. Is our code's name is Kodachi. This is a prototype, but it can work. Made by CNC. Price is super high. But this is not real 7-row. It's based on X16-1, and this keyboard doesn't have the F12, the function key. They don't have the F12 function key, but After that, we come back to Taiwan and we redesigned the new keycap. We designed a small keycap that we can build a real SK8855 that is a real 7-row layout keyboard.
2年前は、シンペクの25周年で、そのために、記念機種が作りましたっけ。結構多分少ないで、多分2000台くらいで。で、その時はこのキーボードも、一緒に販売欲しいですけれど、いろんな問題がありまして、一番大きな問題の方は、トレポイントの、キケットがないで、そのために、ちゃんと販売できないなので、新しいのキーボードが作りました。で、その名前はコタチで言います。そのコタチで、この画面見たように、チェペクのキケットはちゃんと作りました。あとは、そのキーの方は、前のヨーダは60% のそのキーボード、今はフルサイズっていう感じで、前よりは、7000は合ってるんですけれど、指の押しの感じはほぼ同じで、あとは、そのレイアウトはちゃんとシンペクのデザインを参考していますで、その上で、ちゃんとファンクションキーも入っているで、前のヨタは入ってないです。あとは、ビッグの、ESC とかディリートキーもちゃんと入っているで、前は結構ちっちゃいのやつで、サイズは全面的には使いやすいの形に変わりました。
Okay, so finally we designed this keyboard and based on SK8855, the real 7-row mechanical keyboard. We got something different here. You can, so we really glad that maybe there's someone here that buy our keyboard by the Yola or Yola 2 or Kodachi. We are really thankful for you, and because you support us, we can develop the new keyboard that we can make the new one and make our dream keyboard, this real 7-row keyboard. And this is a short Q&A. The layout is based on SK8855. So right now we use the Cherry MX type switch. The mouse key, the 3 mouse key, we use the Cherry MX low profile right now. And the trip point sensitivity we can change with a nice step. The scrolling function, we support the up and horizontal and left and right. And this is all made in Taiwan. And we will support the BOE upgrade function for that. This is and we got 2 prototypes over here. You can try the fitting. It's not working now, it's just prototype. We wanted to everybody give me more suggestion and more feedback. Maybe later you can, if you try the keyboard, you want to tell me something, you can scan our QR code. They got some, you can give more suggestion. We want everybody to give me more suggestion because we want to change the. We can't say we will make the best keyboard, but we want to make the really nice keyboard to everybody. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Do you have any questions for Tex? This is your chance to ask them questions, or you can. Okay.
If we wanted to get custom keycaps for your keyboard, what any idea what we would be looking for in terms of sizes for like?
Oh, it's really hard. Okay, it's really hard because we designed the new keycap is in the navigation and the function key. We made a new keycap. This is a smaller. If you buy the standard, is a standard. we are smaller 87%. So it's really hard you can find this keyboard. And the GHB is we have to fit the checkpoint module, so we cut up something here. If you buy GMK, maybe you don't want to do that, right? Yes. Okay.
Okay. Any more questions? You can also ask them at the booth over there. So if you don't have any questions, so for now, we'll start our next talk in about an hour to 2:30. So just please keep enjoying the meetup. One more thing. Please check into giveaway event on the meetup.com, because some people said they could not RSVP onto the event that we already have right now. So I created a new one so that you could join the giveaway. And I don't know, could you translate?
最初にも言いましたけど、なんだっけ、抽選で、いろいろ、なんだっけ、商品を、あれするので、ミートアップでジョインして、登録条件にしてください。で、後で、彼が、その登録をもとに、抽選機を動かすので、入ってないと、抽選されませんので、ご了承ください。はい。
All right. All right. Thank you very much. Thanks for the talk.
Thank you, everybody.
So please enjoy the meetup and come back in about an hour for the next series of talks. Thank you.
言ってることはめっちゃ難しいし、調整が分かんないし、タイプと相性が悪いから、そういうのマジで大事みたいな。マジで大事。そう、みんながそう言うから誰も作らないから。なんかそんな感じあります？なんかいや、こういう方がさ、こういう感じあるみたいな。そういうこういう方がある。それはね、それはある。我々こう
He's again.
Thank you.
まあまあまあ、こんな感じで、何系をミートアップするか。また、あれはもう自作キーボードですね。関連のなんか見せてるやつが出てくるんですけど、そういうところはちょっとした見せで、その場で食べていただいて。でも、ね、ミシャコボさんっていうお店がキャメラできて、あれ随分変わったっていうことですね。大量の共同投入だと、でっかいロードが買えないですけど、もう映像的にそういうのが使われているので、特にないけど、静電容量で軸と、あれは、もうなんか台湾あれでちょっと逆に迷走したからですね。それってキーボードから離れすぎちゃってもダメじゃないですか。そこが使い替え。ちょっとユーザー、これみたいなユーザ まだ普通に見てる。ここに来てお書きくださいって一番です。まあ、気に触って気に入ったら、ちょっとお世話になります。この田中さんってそうですけど、会話中に小江戸っていうワークスペースがあるんですけど、田中さんが友達なんだから、結構全員の結構ちょっとすごいっぽいワークスペースの人たちとやってたりするので、そうすると、すごいいいですよね。 キーボードそうなった時は、
かなり先ほどの
ラミさんがやってるカフェがあって何にもされていい、ただ行って、それだけで感謝金あれをパクリじゃないですけど、あれを何個もやってで、やっぱカフェIT 業界のバンドで IT を開発する人がカフェにしてる。どういう進出ですか？そのコンテンツのあれを作るのに、そうやればできる。お姉ちゃんですか？結構そういう話題になってるので、授業会にもそんな人がいるん 板間さんにもあれは、今って日本でこれで値段が高いじゃないですか。でもそのうち値段が上がるから10年前にいくらで何か10年前のだから写真とそれとどこに行くかっていうのをそれを記録としてアーカイブとして出して結構量が半端ないです。それほどでもないですよ。そんなに今量増えないですね。もうね、本当、本当にできなくなりました。大盛りはいらないですみたいな。
変化みたいで、これを見せると、プラスお金。
クイーンブードで社食あるんですじゃあ、話しかない。
どういうレイアウトなの？じゃない。これを見せる。
表参道の会社でやないんです。まあ、2つの会社を2つの会社
その3つの業界が
ダンスやすいですね。
スペースはインターじゃあ、これ1で押さないといけない。ここ、僕、昔はここでエンターをやってた。こうやってレイアウトをしたりとか。これもこれの難しかった。
最初3万って書いてない。3万だと思って ある意味そうないですね。ただ、やるのは当たり前な世界なので。
Hey everyone, it's time to grab a seat because we're going to have the next round of talks. They have a workshop and I guess a presentation. So yeah, just grab a seat. And I think there's going to be another announcement from O6. So.
たびたびすいません、O6 からお願いがありまして、会社のブログに今日の様子をアップしたいと思っているんですが、顔写真撮ってやめてくれっていう方いらっしゃいましたら、お声掛けいただけると幸いです。もし出ちゃったら許してくださいという感じで、皆さんよろしければ、ブログとツイートをさせていただきます。あと、さっき社長が撮りまして、社長の Facebook に上がっておりましたので、ご覧ください。興味深い奥が深いと言ってください。ありがとうございます。
All right. Hold up. Where is the speaker? One second. Where is Shinoda-san? Okay. Oh, right. So two other things before. So we're trying to find our characters. Okay, cool. So two other things. So for the meetup, there are two meetups we have right now. One is a giveaway. Please make sure to check it. And another one is the after party. So the after party is from 5 p.m. But because we need to order the food, please make sure to check in before 3:30. So it's like, please check in within an hour if you want to participate in the after party. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
ミートアップコムのページにですね、2つ新しいミートアップができてまして、1つがアフターパーティーの参加希望者の方用のもので、これ、今日の3時半までに登録していただきたいなと思っております。で、もう1つが、キーボードグッズ抽選会の登録の方の、ギブアウェイの、ミートアップでして、両方参加希望の方は登録をお願いいたします。
アフターパーティーのお値段はいくらぐらいですか？いや、ちょっとわからない。まだわからない。まだそんなに高くはない。
ピザを注文する。
ピザ。はい。
はい。
So should we continue? Okay. So our next speaker is Shinoda-san, or nameless 911. From he's going to talk about his PBT casting process. Talk?
I
don't know, you can gesture.
Okay. Maybe not. 多分あんま話すことはあんまりないんですけども、ここの辺りに置いてあった瓦っぽいキーキャップを作っているナムレスと言います。
So you're going to show towards there?
で、持ってもいいですね。
Okay. Okay.
準備が悪くて、こんな、地味なやつですが、PBT の、樹脂をアルミを削ったアルミを削った金型に射出成形機で圧入して、キーキャップを作ってます。で、最近文字を彫れるようになりました。なんか近いうちになんかコントロールキーとか下のモディファイアキーぐらいが作れるといいなみたいな感じなんで、なんか皆さん買ってください。
おいくらですか？
多分200円、1つ200円ぐらいからで、一応ちゃんとした PBT なんで結構触り心地はいいです。はい。で、この後に、あと他にはヘリックスピコのちっちゃいキー、カエルのチョックのちっちゃい、狭いキーピッチの16、17ミリのキートップとか、あと、コルネのモディファイアの、親指のコルネの親指のなんかどうにもなんかちょっとピタッとくる感じのやつがないこういう感じのあれとかも、作りたいなって感じなので、なんか気を長く待っててください。で、この後に今日はその射出成形をいつもやってる機会を持ってきました。で、何人か射出成形をやってみたいなって人いましたら、後ろで、 ちょっとやってみることができるので、まあ、なんかやってみましょう。ただ、すごく地味で、なんか力使うんで、力使うとね、ずっと右手でやってたんですよ。そしたら、右腕が太くなっちゃって、なんか、ちょっと、本当入んなくなったやつがあるぐらいにあれなんで、まあ、ただ自分で、なんかキーと、まあ、作るのとても楽しいので、なんか興味あったら後ろで見てみるのもいいですし、なんかやってみたいなってやってみるのもいいので、なんか後ろに、やってます。はい、以上です。いいかな
Oh, that's it?
That's it?
Oh, okay. Too short? Yes. Okay. That was very fast. Okay, thank you very much. I thought it's going to be a workshop, but okay. All right. I guess our next speaker. What time is it? It's 5 minutes.
とりあえずワークショップやってきゃいいんだよ。
じゃあ、okay. Let's check out how he's doing the follow him.
見たらいいんです。前でライブでも大丈夫ですね。ライブでも。あ、そっち。
Okay. Do you want to do a presentation about this? Okay, so while he's setting up the live demo, we have another talk. Okay, I got the slides. Yeah. Okay.
たびたびすいません。ご質問いただいたので、喫煙所のご案内をしなかったのでご案内します。この回でなくてですね、やっぱり扉出なきゃいけないんですけど、3回降りていただいて、ここから入ってきました。でここ出ていただくと、ここ、動く歩道で皆さん来られたと思うんですけど、ここの外に喫煙所があります。
So here smoking space if you would like to smoke.
戻ってくるときにまた開けなきゃいけないので、その辺はなんか何人かで言っていただけると幸いです。よろしくお願いします。
Okay, まあまあまあ。
ちょっと1個前のセッションがですね、こんなに早く終わると思ってなかったんで、ちょっといささか心の準備がですね、できてない状態なんですけれども、まあちょっととりあえず場をつなぐためにやらせていただこうかなと思います。本当はこれ英語で、yeah, okay. So, how's the keyboard community in Japan to 題して、I will introduce our Japanese keyboard community. For mainly, this is for RMK members or foreigners in Japan, living in Japan. So I will try to speak in English, but it's very poor English. So please ask me question. So I will try to make some answers in English, but maybe in Japanese and translate by some stuffs. So how's keyboard community in Japan? So mainly in this event, Tokyo Mechanical Keyboard Meetup in Tokyo is hosted by the Vector or some RMK members. So I introduce in Japan keyboard community. So first, I'm BIA CCO 40 Biakko in Japan. I'm called Biakko. So please call me Biakko and make my activities in name Japanese 楽しい人生 it's fun life. I have no idea how to say in English. Mainly I make keyboard known as Ergo 42, or I'm working on modular series that are modular system keyboard unit. So the keyboard communities in global scale, there is Reddit or KeepTalk, Keycap, these three very, very major keyboard communities. And also, Discord, the chat service, has the make keys. It's mainly same members of the RMK, R mechanical keyboards. And this is a very impressive active community. They have 9,000 members, over 9,000 members. And in Japan also, we have a keyboard community. Most major keyboard community in Japan is keyboard self-made keyboards in Japan. Discord server also Discord servers. Now has 1,060 1,600 members. This is a graph of members, increasing members. Start at 2017. 2017, sorry. Start at 2017, and now 2019, there is very increasing members. It's a Discord screenshot. And in English or global community, they have the documentation service. Discosolity is known. And in Japan, Scrapbox service used in Japan community. There is a lot articles and actively maintained volunteer members. And this is very important point of Japanese keyboard community. We have the real store about self-made, handmade keyboards. The Yusha Kobo, it's located in Akihabara. And they have very many keyboard kits, caps, other parts, switch, spring, also now available in Yusha Kobo. And the real store is very affecting our community. I showed this figure last, and Yusha Kobo starts here, and the slope is more steep. So the real store increases our community members. Then, and also Japan has online stores too, Tap Keyboards or Yukari Keyboard Factory in Japanese. Sorry. これ日本語のままでしたね。So we have major 3 online shops in one country. It's very crowded. And we have also this Tokyo MK is one of the biggest mechanical keyboard meetups in Tokyo, and the other 10 key called Tenki. It's the Tenkaichi Keyboardio YY. YY Kai, yes. In Japanese. So, shorten Tenki. So, this event has also very, very large numbers of keyboards. And maybe you know, so sorry, main keyboards and like this event, they have also presentation sessions, and they have discussions on mechanical keyboards. And in Japan, local meetups is arising. In US or some other countries, they have the local meetups. But in Japan, the first step is built now. So, but the local meetups is arising, and in Japan, more and more mechanical keyboards acquired popularity. And it is the very important point. In Japan community, there is a very, very many self-made keyboard kits introduced by individuals, not company. And you know, so many split keyboards in Japan. The included not split keyboard in 2018 to 2019. There are around 20 individual developers keyboard kits arising in Japan. It's so many. This is the part of that keyboards, not all. It's just part of the keyboard kit made by Japan community members in 2018 to 2019. And this is some of the PR. And you know, on YouTube Live, the Top Clock is the famous YouTube Live streaming about the Makepeace. So in Japan, we have also the weekly YouTube Live now in ほぼ週刊キーボードニュース in Japanese, sorry. The QR code is Chinese link. Oh. So this slide is the last. So this is the introduction of the Japanese keyboard community. Do you get it?
Why so many split keyboards?
Mainly the reason is the first movement, the first mechanical keyboard movement in Japan is made by maybe Ergodox or Red Split. So the split keyboards is very attractive in Japanese. Maybe it's, it looks ridiculous or so some unique design. It's very much to Japanese maybe. So yeah, or maybe the ASCII or US layout is suitable for typing in English, but the type in Japanese is type in Japanese has the other manner. So maybe the US or ANSI QWERTY layout is not suitable for Japanese. So it's one of the reasons why the Japanese so like split keyboards. So any other questions or my poor English?
Okay, if we don't have any more questions, you can check out the casting workshop over there. And yeah, and you can just come back for the last talk at 4 p.m. Don't forget to check in for the giveaway and for the after party if you want to. And yeah, please enjoy the meetup. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
とは言いながら、VTuber そんな 3D のキーボードすごいこれはだから2人あれはだからこれでキャラであれは
どっちかが点切る、どっちかがメーカーでどっちかが補正なんですけど。あれは2つはめちゃめちゃ。これ違う、これ天気なんです。違う、メーカーペアとこれがちょっと一種違いとか、一種違いとか。そう、ここはあれなんですよ。これ山の感じだとコミケメーカーペアと。ここからめちゃめちゃそういう感じのソフト。まあ、今のところ、あくまで数字付けてるのと、ガレンチやデザイナーの方が多いのか。単純に同業者で横で広まっている傾向は強い。今、一部やったり、ハードウェア系の方々少しハードウェアの方が少し入ってきているやっぱりちょっとこうバイラルというか、口コミに広がっている感じなので、そうするとやっぱ横のつながりも含めて、いや、今のです。内容としては、本当に、なんかまあ、RNK で、エディットの海外のそういうコミュニティができてますよっていう話を紹介してほしいので、こんな会がありますので、まあ、日本のサーバー、ローカルのキーボードのサーバーで、まあ、一応やってますので、あと、ドキュメンテーションカメラの画面で、で、プラスの話で、入社項目が実店舗があって、実店舗できてから、
just quick announcement. We have some free 60% cases and keychains from Cherry over there. Just pick up. We have only like 50 of them, so please make sure to pick one up.
I got to see the exhibition yesterday. Next There's some free stuff. Gee, that's there's a. I don't mind it. Sure. No, let's see. All right. I have little notes for myself on some of them. I did this last night. I'm sure it'll be fine.
All right, today's talks are very short.
Like,
I think Jacob said too much of a high standard.
Jacob, I've never seen Jacob talk here, but I know Jacob.
Yeah, he did like a whole rundown of his like switch science. It's just like charts and everything.
Yeah, it's that looks fun. Oh, or do you have mirroring? Is it okay for me to choose like I don't want to switch it to Here, we'll do the run it through the full just in case. Okay. No worries. All right. Yeah, so I'm happy to have this, whatever, running whatever you want. Thank you.
Yep. No worries.
すごい盛り上がったね、本当に。海外はどんな感じなんですか、盛り上げ方は。特に日本がすごくバーッと海外も同じぐらいですよ。
わかるわかる、今めっちゃ今27個。今27個。まだいいな。
Oh, thank you so much. So support. Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, every time we try to improve this program. So hopefully, hopefully this one. Yeah, this is the biggest one we had so far.
Today is very busy, so
this is much bigger. So that's why I had
ちょいちょい、まあ、全種じゃないですか。
やばい、やばい、これ完全にやばい。これはちょっとやばい。あれですよ。
強い。そうですね、多分ね、業界違うと。 考えてるらしいので。これ、あのノリをそのまま持ってきて、キーボードユースするかみたいな。公開収録で。いや、僕らでもいいですね。以外の話題を、なんか、最初出てくれませんかってお願いしたらダメですって。最初は怖かったんですよ。やっぱりちょっとね、今度先ほどやりますから。
めっちゃかっこいい。めっちゃかっこいい。You can really see some.
I know, right? It's really, it has so many people said I didn't get just feel like it's something. I was sitting on the floor.
I think if I want to do something in Japan, you have to keep
Well, ironically, it's a neutron.
everything's made out of solid.
Yeah.
You can buy a keyboard.
Well, I guess, you know, you have limited space. You're not really like. Also, I don't know. Maybe because a lot of like projects here are super DIY. And not everyone has like a CNC.
No, but then like most of the time, I wonder if there's any CNC company in Japan.
Could be like the next logical step for the
Because I want to get something similar to. I was thinking of doing something like the balance layout, but split it in half. Yeah. But you can also have it attached. So think of it as a VC VA.
Oh yeah. Oh, slightly curved.
Yeah, so it's slightly curved.
That's pretty interesting. Oh, is there a Alice around here?
There's no.
I wanted to see if it's actually.
I've got an Alice. I just have to go to it again.
Oh, okay.
Put up an advertisement. Can I put an advertisement here? This man is looking. This man is looking for.
You can post it on Twitter.
Yeah.
Everyone's on Twitter.
Yeah, I use Twitter though.
Or you can ask in Discord.
So, again,
Just give me red pandas.
because I'm getting to that point where like, I've got so many red fields, I need to red stuff. Nobody's got any, like, we're not selling.
I want to buy hyper because I didn't have money. Now I like it.
I could use classic. It's expensive.
Yeah, the original one is terrible colors. I like it. Was incorrect. After originally they fixed it, it looks like crap. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I'm still looking for old DSA sculpts.
Oh, wow. He said it.
I'm not finding no one's selling. There's a couple of things I'm looking for, but nobody's selling.
Yeah, I don't know what Master is doing. It's like, see, maybe
have you noticed the prices of GMK aftermarket just been absolutely disgusting again? So GMK Olivia, GMK Serena, GMK Red Samurai.
Hold up, I gotta tell people to sign up for the
Hey everyone, quick announcement. If you want to go to after party, please make sure to sign up because we're going to close the sign ups in 10 minutes. Thank you.
please make sure to sign up for the after party at Meetup.
アフターパーティーのミートアップコムの参加まだされてなくて、参加希望の方はあと10分で締め切りますのでよろしくお願いします。
I want to do something that's everything is done in CNC. It's going to be expensive.
You can ask Alvin because last time
He mastered though, so that's China.
No. He brought the guy who was a professor at Tokyo University. There's some kind of like thing. Remember, were you there? Was there the gig? Not printing.
No, I wasn't on that. I was only in the other two.
Okay, yeah. So I think it's the last one or before the last one. There were guys like basically some kind of organization that kind of picks up local businesses and it's kind of like Rakuten. They're trying to do Rakuten all over again, and they had CNC.
Because I want to do, I think the community here is bigger, and I think
it's crazy.
To jump on the wagon of design, because I can already do CAD design, all the basic stuff. I can do it.
Yeah, I mean, Alvin would probably be the best person to ask about it.
Someone who can speak English.
Yeah,
my joke.
Ask if she knows the song. Is guy who's doing he knows CNC, he has CNC.
Oh, really?
That's how he did it. It's pretty good. He's from my lab. Yeah, he's doing the keyboard company, and that's why he can run it for 4 years here. Which, what could have happened to me?
Well, I don't know. I like being a Japan, but my job doesn't subsidize. I'm just doing it.
Right. Oh, yeah, right. So the OT salary you can.
I've got a lot of savings. My UK job is. I was earning very good money. That's why I came to Japan this year.
What kind of job did you do?
I worked at a bank.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, I worked for a bank.
Oh, here's a big one. Yeah, it doesn't get hard.
Yeah, so I've got a bit of savings. I don't want to blow the savings making stuff. And as I work here, my goal is to kind of give the Japanese level so that I can do what I did back in the UK. Here, and stuff like that. I don't mind the love there. I don't mind
It's always your kind of shit.
Yeah, well, my IT is okay. It's like I got lucky with my last job because I knew the system after 3 years there, so my is disposable, and I can ask for a decent wage and some part of the system I wrote. So I was indisposable, and when I decided to leave, they yeah. So I had to give notice at least 6 months.
Where are you?
London. So yeah, so it was part of the reason why I was leaving was because of the phrases that you were using. So back to moving out. So I didn't knew that was happening. So I jumped to it. I didn't know the skill that I had in that last job was really able to take it to another job. Back in system. Yeah, I understand it. No one wants it. Very
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
I love the podcast. Wish I could speak more Japanese. I wish I could speak more Japanese. I think they need to communicate here. I just concrete, not DIY.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a good sample. By the way, it's important.
Like Korean custom. America, US, and the Western community started off as that boutique, premium market. Here, obviously, it started off as a split, very cheap. Premium products, but very DIY. So the piece is completely CNC. It's got glass plate, but PCB is so it's not like a gap. So it's not like US, the West, where PCB is that's a new thing. Gasket to reduce noise, or like dampening. A gasket, so from what my knowledge is, it's literally there's a pusher. It's a gimmick. It's getting there.
Kind of like
oh yeah. Carpet.
It's good.
And people love it. So these simple size of objects, I'm guessing that's also very expensive.
Yeah, it's
I just want to see like once you're like overseas, like if you die overseas, we'll ship your body back fully covered. That was it. Like cool.
We go down to Sakuragawa and rode around Sakuragawa on a bike, Sakuragawa, and then to Chichuya.
And then go on a traveling vacation.
Got back to it.
That's really good. And eyes both eyes are very different. I'll be fine. I do. I what is yeah, one and they both are you can't it's like when my eyes are being it's like circles around.
You don't mind taking
This hurts like oh the shape of your eye. I had surgery and they couldn't fix anything. Oh no, I don't care. Certain videos like You look at people's stats. Like, I don't want to do it again. Like, I was up at night, I go outside, so it's at 8 p.m. and I'm like trying to stumble and I get there. I just feel on the wall like my like step on the dog now. Your eyes.
Oh, yeah.
There's a tour movie. Yeah, I didn't know that. I said, there's a tour movie. When the new Brazil city watch it here, like English. It's like Godzilla's my life. I like it. It was like
3人ぐらい作ってるらしいですよ。でもなんか、ケースの行列に作っても全部できる。キーボードのは調整ができる。ちょっと聞いなかった、ちょっと変えるっていうキーボードその場でありましたね。すごい。ビットで横スポスポっていう。 まあでも本当それに習いをもしかしたら全然意味なかったので、研修とか何もないですよね。次のメインはみんな必要なんですよ。この間、暑いどのくらい使えるかって今示してるんです。ここは、いや、別にじゃなくて、もうちょっとストロークがあるんですけど、中国でやって知ってダメですね。慣れないですね。別々キーボードになる前のバックでやってる。最近は Windows ね、Linux の なんですけど、なんか、夜にやってるんですよね。おかしいですよね。そこいらないから安くしたいのに、なんか、選択肢ないですね。安い中古でいいや。あと4万円くらいのやつも、ここは、そんなに早くはない。悪くないんですよ。いわゆる開発作業がそこでできるようになって重さはね、重さはとてもしまあ、それでいいやつだね。
Yeah, this is if I were to use like my switch.
まあ一応、出ないですけど、じゃあ、ダメに略すわ。 あれのそれで今やチーム政府に頼らなくてない。実際にね、使ったりとかして、最近、アイスのいかに考えてるのあれもそうですよ。終わっちゃったかな。社ってアメリカのちょっとマイナーで、規約で進行する時点から、その政府の裏側のそれだけど、で、それが大きなことが分けたりしたんだけど、結局、なんか、裁判したりとか、最終的には、なんか、それが正しくしていきたいと思うので、そういうことと、あとは、政府側の両方、信号時代
Sorry guys, it's gonna take a while.
So it isアメリカの会社の作業を次に2割ぐらい。日本で買えるそれ映像になってタブレット
Hey everyone, please take a seat because we are about to have our last talk of today. Where's Jesse? Oh, there he is. Okay. Also, if somehow you forgot to check in at the giveaway meetup, please check in. Just saying that, you know, there's on the meetup app, there's a giveaway meetup. So if you check in, you have a chance of winning something today. So yeah. Where's hold on. Jesse, where are you? Where did he go? Oh, where is he? Where's the speaker? No, where did he go? No, he was just here. He was just here, just now. Oh no. Oh, okay, no problem.
Don't worry.
Right, so please welcome Jesse Vincent from Keyboardio.
All right. Let's see how this goes. Should be working. Yeah, let me just,
Yeah.
I'm gonna turn this off so I can see it. And I'll stand up once I'm going.
Okay.
All right, how long do you want me talking?
Huh?
How long am I supposed to talk?
Half an hour tops.
Okay. Great. Hi, I'm Jesse from Keyboardio. So I apologize that I speak almost no Japanese. I am an American. I know that Americans tend to speak very quickly. We use a lot of very strange words. If you do not understand me, chances are nobody understands me. So it's always okay to ask questions, to wave your hands at me and tell me to stop and explain, to ask somebody to translate. I'm very happy for this to be very informal. I have some slides. They're mostly pictures of cats. So we'll see how it goes. And that was not what was supposed to happen when I hit space to play.
Oh. Okay.
Let's see.
Oh.
No.
No. No. What
I don't know. I was trying to play the slideshow.
Here. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Yes, you are very much correct. Oh, what is happening? Okay. All right.
Well,
technical difficulties. Hold up.
No worries.
Yeah. Why is this happening?
I don't know. It worked fine when we tested it before. We did actually test the slideshow.
You can see this is a live slideshow because it doesn't work.
Okay.
All
right.
What? Okay, hold up. Let me restart the keynote because I don't know what's happening. This is really weird.
Or just turn on video mirroring and we can do it the other way and it'll be fine.
Okay, let me just give it another shot. Oh, right, because that's the last slide. This is
okay. That maybe will work better.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Okay.
Hey.
Okay. Hi. Yay.
All right. Take two. So I guess all these talks should begin with how I got sucked into this terrible, terrible hobby, lifestyle, business, something. It was 2013. My last startup had just failed. I decided I was going to take some time off to screw around and try new projects. And I saw that there were some guys on the internet who'd made their own keyboards. I was a Perl hacker. And if you know any Perl programmers, you know that their usual attitude is, how hard could this be? It's got to be easy, right? So I decided I was going to start a 1-month project to make one keyboard. This was my first attempt. That's a laser cut piece of acrylic. As you can tell, it looks an awful lot like a flattened kinesis or an ergodox without the extra columns. What was terrifying was the back of it. It was really terrifying, but it worked. That's a hard drive cable plugged into the side of a teensy. This is a picture frame from the local craft store. I went in and I asked them to buy a picture frame of a certain size. They said, "Okay, do you want us to cut the glass?" I said, "No, you keep the glass." So that was my first keyboard. It was horrible. This was the next one. And you can barely see there are some wires. This is about halfway through the wiring. It looked a little bit prettier, but it was also horrible. This was my third keyboard. This is the first one that somebody said, "Hey, can I buy that?" That was probably the end. Then our 3D printer arrived, and I started 3D printing keyboards. The thing I learned with this 3D printed keyboard is that putting sharp points underneath the user's wrists is a really bad idea, unless you want to draw blood. This was the last successful 3D printed keyboard I made. One of the things you can't quite see is that there's a full 3D printed ball joint here. The big thing I learned from this keyboard is, don't 3D print a ball joint. It totally worked, but it took like a week to do, and you can buy components. But after this, our 3D printer caught fire and almost burned down the house. So I went back to laser cut things. And this is our first butterfly-shaped laser cut keyboard. It still had no PCB. Every key was individually hand-wired. There's an Arduino there stuck in the middle, and you can see the little outlines of the blue wires. So that was 2013. By 2014, I'd actually put a PCB inside things. We made about a dozen of these. Our plan was to Kickstarter this. We sent out mail to our mailing list that had about 1,000 people on it somehow, and said, "Does anyone want to test our couple of prototypes?" And inside of a day, 100 people wrote back saying, "Ooh, ooh, me." Somebody recorded a music video in 3 locations saying, "Ooh, ooh, me." This is the point where we realized that this might be a business. And so we went through a hardware incubator company that helps you start a company and make hardware. That was an interesting experience because we were the only ones in the incubator who wanted to make products and not just make a couple $1 million and sell our company to somebody else. But this is what we came out of it with. So you can start to see the keyboard we eventually made. It looks a little bit like this, but this is milled out of aluminum. It weighs a good couple of kilos. But that got us to 2015 when we did our Kickstarter. And this was the prototype that we showed on the Kickstarter page. We actually had 30 of these in the field. They had custom sculpted keycaps, milled wood enclosure, RGB LEDs, and they worked. It took us quite a while to get to mass production. I'll talk a little bit about that today. But this is the thing we eventually shipped. There's one of them back there. There are thousands and thousands of them in the field now. So how did I do? Because you'll remember that my goal was a 1-month project to make 1 keyboard. Well, really? It was a 76-month project. So not that successful on that front. But I was only trying to make 1 keyboard, and eventually we ended up making thousands of keyboards. So I'm going to count that as actually being pretty successful. If you figure out how many keyboards we made every month, we're doing okay. So I've got some little bits of product design to show off, just things you might be in for if you decide to mass manufacture a keyboard. So our keycaps. I designed the keycaps in Fusion 360. There are 64 different keys. That's 32 on one side, and then the other side is just a copy of the first side. So I had to design 32 keycaps, 32 distinct profiles. Every time we've gotten prototypes of these made, first when it was us ordering them from a supplier, and then when it was our keyboard factory ordering them from their prototyping supplier, 64 individual keycaps were lovingly 3D printed or CNC milled by a supplier and then dropped in a Ziploc bag. Each key is oriented either front or back. No two keys are the same. And so this is the poor junior sales guy at our factory who got handed this bag of 64 keys and told to figure it out. He never figured it out. We ended up having to have them reordered. But once you get through that, you get to the point of making injection mold tooling. So this is the bottom side of our keycaps. This is the giant steel injection molding tool. And up here is a big block of copper for a process called EDM, electro something.
Dance music.
No, it is not. It is not dance music. Though if you hear the thing running, it kind of sounds like EDM. But basically, the idea is this big chunk of copper that's been milled in a shape. Copper is very easy to CNC mill. And then a lot of electricity in this big chunk of steel, and it will essentially ablate the steel into the shape you want. So that's the back of the keycap mold. This is a at least 500 kilo block of steel. And then on the other side of that is all these pins. So behind every key are 4 pins, so that when the big thing of plastic comes out of the injection mold, there's something that can push it off. Here is for scale. This is the other side of the keyboard, the tops of the keys. There is a human, and that's about yay big. You don't want one of these to fall on you. Generally, if they have to be moved, they're moved in the back of big trucks. Our factory had one of them moved in the back of a small Honda hatchback car. I watched them put this piece of tooling in the car. The car dropped maybe a third of a meter. It's heavy. So once this stuff gets injected, every key has a little stem that is supposed to fit onto a key switch. And every one is going to be subtly different, even though they're supposed to be the same. So one of the things you might see is this chart from the factory of how many kilograms of force it took to pull each keycap off of a key. And so we'd spec'd it as, I think it was like 1.9 to 2.1 kilograms of force to pull off. And they didn't quite hit it, but it was okay. It's better than a lot of others. And so the way this usually gets tested is with, well, my very fancy tool or a much more manual one, but it's basically a force testing tool where you can see how much force it takes to pull something up or push it down. And they run through 3 or 4 times, and then they will have to very slightly change the big chunk of steel to make things fit a little bit more loosely or a little bit tighter. And if you think about it, that's either going to be cutting some steel away so there can be more plastic on your keycaps, or putting some steel back. It's really hard to put steel back after you've milled it out. But in the end, you get to mass production of keycaps. And so you will get to see cool shit like this. And so that is a robot connected to an injection molding tool that cuts off the sprue, the little bits of plastic holding the keycaps together, and then holds them on with vacuum as it brings them over on top of a jig and drops them down. And then you get something like this, where this is the full set of keycaps. One of the things, so we didn't actually see the design for the keycap tooling before they started making the tooling. We had signed off on the keycap design. And you can't see it here because of the light, but that says right, and that says left. They swapped the 2 hands. It's workable, but not ideal. But you'll note that these are white keycaps, and our keycaps, of course, are black. So how do we get from white keycaps to black keycaps? This is how all painted and laser keycaps get painted. Maybe it's a robot, but usually it's a worker. Puts it on and sprays, rotates 90 degrees and sprays, rotates 90 degrees and sprays. One of the craziest things about manufacturing in China, especially at small volumes, is that everything is done by hand. I visited some very, very fancy factories for some very high-end brands, and it's still all done by hand. It's not all machines. So, yay, now our white keycaps are black. But the kinds of problems you might run into with processes like this are, if they get the angle of the sprayer wrong, your black keycap is going to have a little bit of white at the bottom. But after that, everything goes to the laser. And the laser is a guy sitting at a workstation with a laser and a foot pedal, and no safety anything here. And he hits the foot pedal, and the laser just starts engraving keys. I asked one of these factories, so what happens if you put your hand in the beam? And the factory worker said, the sales guy said it's safe. So I suggested that maybe next time they should have the sales guy put his hand in the beam. But in the end, you end up with something like this, with your right-hand keys and your left-hand keys. But again, it's a manual process, and sometimes there are mistakes. So from our first production run, our first keycap production run, everything with white and all of the piles are different lasering mistakes. So you basically have to have humans going through and checking everything. I did promise cat pictures. In the end, it turns out our product is not for humans. It is for the cats who own the humans. So I'm gonna jump through some stuff quick. We designed base plates for the keyboard. When the prototypes come out, they bring you a giant garbage bag full of samples, and they spill them out on the floor. Working in factories in China, sometimes there are power outages. So this is us working at 7 p.m. one night by flashlight because the factory had lost power. This was an early prototype for the feet for the keyboard. The factory actually opened the tooling. They created the injection molds before we'd approved the design, and the design was wrong. So this is the output of a tool that basically has a pinpoint on a CNC that will check the output of an injection molded product to make sure that it is to within tolerances. So this is how close did each of the critical dimensions get to what was spec'd. And so this is a better injection molding factory is able to prove to you that the thing they made matches the design you gave them. The back of our base plate is textured. So it's got a little bit of a nice feeling on the back in certain places. And when they asked me which parts which parts gets textured, I started talking to them and they started writing with a white Sharpie on the thing to annotate that this stuff should get textured and the label's gonna go there, so don't put any texture. One of the coolest things in these injection molded factories is how you pick a texture. They've got a book. The book is a bunch of sheets of plastic that have a bunch of different textures on it. They didn't have the texture I wanted. I told them to get an old IBM ThinkPad, and that was the texture I wanted. And I'm gonna run long, so I'm gonna go fast. I did, cats. It's all about the cats. So the Model 1 has a stand underneath it, which is basically an octopus-shaped thing with 8 legs. And the factory started off trying to do a sort of high-end design process where they figured out the exact right design before making anything physical. And I ended up having to explain to them that physical things are great. And so I got them to go buy some modeling clay, and we started hacking up things to do what's called shitty prototyping. It seems like a lot of engineering graduates in China are sort of taught to do it once the right way, rather than make lots of mistakes very fast so you can get to the solution quickly. Shitty prototyping is great. That's the stand we ended up with. The interconnect is not super interesting. This is the bars that go between the two halves. This is what they look like coming out of the injection mold with a little piece of plastic that holds them in place. As it turned out, the factory wasn't able to get them super flat in the beginning. They were supposed to be flat, and they were coming out curved. And so the factory ended up making little jigs that basically push them down as they come out and as they cool, so that they end up staying flat. But this stuff gets done by hand. It's kind of nuts. Everything. So keyboard comes with a screwdriver. We gave specs to like 6 different screwdriver companies, and people sent us all kinds of crazy things. But it turns out you can get overnight laser engraved screwdrivers in the correct color of orange in Shenzhen, because China is wonderful. The Model 1 comes with a Type C to Type A cable. And so we did a lot of cutting cables open and looking inside to see what horrible secrets lurked in the cable. Whether it had actual steel cladding, or whether it was actually USB 3 or just 4 wires for USB 2 and poorly soldered. We specified that it was to be a USB 2 cable and that it needed to have the exact right resistors so that something would identify it correctly when plugged in. Because if you plug a nice high-end Pixel phone into a MacBook and the Pixel phone sees a USB 3 cable, it will say, give me like 30 amps of power. It'll be great. And unfortunately, when you've got a poorly made cable that says it's USB 3 capable and can take that kind of power and isn't, it melts. This was a cable we'd already decided we wouldn't use, but I'd handed it to my wife to use to charge her phone, and the glue literally leaked out of it on the table. FCC testing turns out to not be a huge pain in the ass anymore. It ends up costing maybe $1,000 USD to get something without a radio FCC qualified. We had this experience where we sent our keyboard in to the test lab, and they came back and said, you failed. I'm like, okay, what are our options? They said, we have 2 options. One, you can make changes and submit it again, and we'll test it again. Or you can have our research lab figure out the right solution and make the changes and test it again. I'm like, okay, what are the costs? They say, well, if you have it, so if you do the changes and submit it, that's 100 USD. Okay, what if I let the lab do it? Well, that's a total of 110 USD. $10 US to have them figure out the problem and fix it. Not a bad deal. We were very afraid of making a Bluetooth keyboard from the beginning. There are a lot of things that adds for a shippable product. Many carriers won't let you ship batteries by air. So your shipping costs go up. Your testing costs go up. And you have to deal with machines like this one that says battery nail penetrating tester. To get your certifications, you have to let the test lab do things like hammer nails through your batteries and make sure they don't explode. Cats. So this is not actually related to manufacturing keyboards. It is related to doing business in China. If you're ever going to do business in China, register your damn trademarks early. We had a company see us in the media and register our brand in China. And the way these scams work is they wait for your product to be ready to ship out. Then they call Chinese customs and say, this American company is using our brand illegally. Please stop their product from shipping. Yeah. So we ended up hiring a lawyer to fight it, which is still in process because it was very clear which news article about us in a major Chinese newspaper was the day before they filed their registration. But yeah, paying lawyers in cash is weird. So mass production. We had end customers actually 3D print a working fidget spinner Keycap for the keyboard. I know this is now a common thing, but what can you do? This is what mass production looks like. This is somebody checking the LEDs that have come out of the solder reflow oven. This is lots and lots of Keyboardio Model 1s getting ready for key testing. And this was my birthday 2 years ago. Probably the best birthday present ever, seeing our first mass production run actually rolling down the line. Yeah. So it's been not without its production, and I'm running a little long.
Oh, it's fine.
Okay.
No.
So we've been pretty public about problems we've run into. There have been two big ones. One of them is that the Matthias Alp switches we use are hand assembled. They are hand lubricated. And for our first two production runs, it turns out that there was somebody, not every staff person doing the production, but somebody who was doing that lubrication who put in 10 times too much grease. You can see the grease and the grease and the grease. And when the grease gets on the electrical contacts, bad things happen. Maybe the key registers twice when you press it. Maybe it doesn't register. Maybe it registers 4 times. Maybe it just sticks together. And initially the switch manufacturer said, yeah, that's a 5% failure rate, that's normal. And they're like, you should replace the defective keyboards or repair them. And like, well, can you recommend any way for the customer to repair them? I said, no. And then I found a 12-year-old on Reddit who had developed a procedure using isopropyl alcohol and an eyedropper to clean the switches. And that solved about 95% of these customer problems. Now the switch manufacturer recommends the 12-year-old's process. So that was exciting. One of the other problems is that our first wood supplier didn't do what they said. They didn't dry the wood well enough. And so from the first 1,000 keyboards, we had between 5 and 10% of them that cracked or warped. That ended up with us having to switch wood suppliers. The other problem is that while we were paying them to do CNC on the bottoms and CNC on the tops, it looked like they were doing CNC on the bottom, and on the top, it looked like somebody had used a Dremel tool, a rotary tool, to manually do the cutouts. And this is a little fuzzy, but you can see some of it almost looks like someone tried to bite it. And I had to go visit their factory, and I discovered that in fact, they were doing CNC on the bottom, and then were manually doing the top side because they were trying to save money. You live, you learn, you switch suppliers. So that was me going kind of fast through a bunch of random stuff. But I'm happy to take a couple of questions if people want to ask questions. Yes?
What hardware incubator?
We were with Highway 1, which was run by PCH. They're no longer in operation. A bunch. I've probably spent more than 4 or 5 months in Shenzhen in total at this point. It turns out that it's really worth spending time working with the people who are making your stuff, so that you understand them, they understand you, and they understand the product. Other questions? Questions? Yep.
So like the Matthias grease issue is actually.
Oh, so I should say, after we figured out what was going on and showed Matthias what was going on, what the problem was with the grease, we got them to switch to a dry Teflon grease. And so new Matthias switches don't have wet lubricant.
Oh, okay. Because I had like older Matthias keyboards and the switches died or shattered too often.
As it turns out, that this is the most common problem with Matthias switches, and it is solvable.
Okay. Interesting.
Why did you make original keycaps, not the keycaps available?
So why did we make our own custom keycaps? And to really answer that, you should put your hands on the product. But good keycaps help you type better. And so we designed our entire. So the basis of our layout is some Japanese research from the 80s. Many of you may be familiar with the Tron project, which was, I believe, the University of Tokyo, and I don't want to get his name wrong, but the idea was a computing infrastructure, everything from pocket computing to grid computing. And when they got to keyboards, they started by studying everything we had done in the West about how to design keyboards. And as far as I can tell, they then politely laughed, put it aside, and started studying how hands work. And so the Tron TK1 is the keyboard that both the Model 1 and the Ezreal Nisei that Nilpo brought are based on. And it's based around how your hands move and how your fingers move. And so we sculpted keycaps that work with that and help reinforce the right motions and make it harder to type wrong. We also, I'm not a fan of keyboards where there are gaps between the keys. And if we were going to have a columnar keyboard with the keys at different angles, we would have gaps between the keys. We also decided to use 18mm back to front spacing to make it easier to reach. After first playing with sculpting some custom keycaps myself using a modeling clay on top of regular keycaps, I realized that that was just, for what the Model 1 is, it was the only reasonable option. Also, it turns out I'm crazy, but a lot of people seem to like the feel, so I'm glad there are other people who are crazy like me. Yeah.
Do you have any plans for any different color keycaps?
So do I have plans for other colors? We've shipped white keycaps to some customers. We have ongoing supply issues with keycaps, though there are some additional sets of legends that we will be shipping. Maybe we'll do other colors, but it will probably be off-white and black for now, at least. Yeah.
Continue to use wood in future keyboards?
We will use wood in future keyboards, but we will also be making keyboards that don't use wood. I love the feel of wood, even though it was originally an accident. There was a snowstorm that caused our supply of acrylic for laser engraving to not show up. And so we bought plywood instead. So I love the feel of wood, but we also want to be able to have things that are more affordable. And it turns out that injection molded plastic is a lot more affordable than milled wood. Other questions? Maybe questions in Japanese? Things that made no sense? Okay, thank you, everybody.
Great, thank you so much. That was really interesting. It took me 5 or 4 years to figure out the Matthias problem until now. I didn't know that was actually a problem. Okay, so right now, please make sure you RSVP for the giveaway, and we will start the giveaway. Yeah. Oh, okay, we need to take out the merchandise from that room. Hold on. 2 things. Okay, maybe that's big enough. I hope I got the right event ID. Oh, oh, we got our stuff? Okay. Yeah. Oh, wait, there it goes. Okay, cool. So what do we have? I actually have no clue. We got stuff from PFU, Tex, Kale, Yushakobo, ZealPC, Cherry MX. Actually, that is the best. Okay, so before we can start with more stuff from PFU. So we have some keychains and omamoris from the PFU. So we'll start with that. We'll start with keychains. So I'm just going to press enter, and if you see your name, please come here. All right. Namiki-san. Okay. How many keychains are there? Six? Five? Okay. Okay. 2 more people. No. Please keep coming. And okay. Yeah. Well, oh, no, sorry. Okay. Okay, and 2 more people. Oh, Yamaguchi-san is from PV. Okay. Would you like to get your keychain back? Okay, 4 more people. Eric Roa, Koyu, and James Tech. Okay.
Who don't already?
And last one. Last keychain. Okay. Last keychain. Terakawa-san. Oh, okay. Okay. Now we have HHTB Omamori. It's only 3 pieces. They're actually pretty good. So. Kanji. Yato-san. Tomu-san. Okay. We got it. Okay. Okay. Now we have 2 T-shirts from PFU.
Yeah, PFU.
Right? Oh, okay. Okay, then 1. Okay, we have 1 T-shirt from PFU. Okay. Deru-san. Okay, now we have.
We also have Amiro's.
Okay, yeah, we have also stuff from our mill. So now we're getting. Let's get to PCB first. PCB and switches. Okay, we got 3 PCBs from Yushakobo. Okay, 60% PCB. So if you got a free case from Cherry, that's a really good day for you. Okay, Okamoto-san. Takahiro-san. Oh, okay. Oh, Bruce. Oh, nice. Would you like to get your machine? Okay. Okay. All right. Now we have 2 packs of switches from ZealPC. So these are actually expensive. Like, I'm jealous. So we have a pack of Telios and yeah. Okay. All right. So David. Who's David? David. No, David. No. All right. That's okay. Hello. Kwame. Oh, okay. Takes the linear ones. It's the silent ones. They're more expensive. They have a better resale value. No, wrong. Okay-san. OK-san, OK-san, no. Okay. Deepbook-san. Oh, okay. Good choice. Thanks. Okay, now we have keycaps from text, retro keycaps from text. So this is really good. Like the packaging, the box, and everything. I'm jealous of the person who's going to get it. We have 3 packs of those. So okay. Yuichi-san. Okay. Daifuku-san. Daifuku. Okay. 漢字書けさすいません。木田さんで。Please help me with 漢字。Okay. Okay, now we have 2 pocket calculators from Kale. Well, they're not really pocket, but they are calculators. Actually, they're from Itakobo, so they say it's pocket, so you can put it in your pocket. That's good. Kishida-san. Okay. And Yu-san. Yu-san. Okay. Okay. Now we have 4 pieces from Cherry. Cherry something. Developer kit. Yeah. So it's a 100 switch pack from Cherry. They're different. They're different. So just make sure on the backside it says what kind of switch is that. Again, take silence. They have more resale value. I'm joking. Okay. Take us Okay. Joe-san. Oh, okay. And kanji. Okay. Okay. Now we're reaching the expensive stuff. We have 2 keyboards and a desk mat from Vermilo. Like, I would really want to read that, but I am an organizer, so I can. But this is like really beautiful traditional Chinese red keyboard, and the other one is also has a very nice print. So, okay, so we start with a desk mat. Is it? Yeah. Okay, separate type. Okay. We'll start with a desk mat. Okay. Oh, you're lucky. Okay. Now we'll go with this keyboard, maybe the blue one. Okay. Akira Siensu-san. Oh. Okay, and the last one. Hatarako-san. Oh. Okay, that's pretty much all we got. Yeah. Thank you very much for coming. Yeah, let's give a hand to the team today. They did really good. Yeah, thank you very much for coming. This meetup wouldn't have been possible without the team and the sponsors and of course you. So this is like really great. We have one more teacher. Hold up. Okay, hold up. We're not over yet. Okay, one more person. Paul Felix-san. Oh, Felix. Oh, okay. It has good resale value. Okay, I'm joking. But everyone, yeah, thank you so much for coming. It's been a really great event, and if you like, you can stay over for the after party. But okay, you should have checked in before. But anyway, yeah, thank you for coming, and you can enjoy the rest of the day and check out some keyboards. Okay, thank you.
should we clean up the chairs make room for pizza?
Yeah, that would be a good idea.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, you got yourself a good one. Yeah, I mean, I just need to move the tables. No, it's no worries. Because you need to go to the chairs, but I don't know. Yeah, so yeah, thank you for coming. This is like the thing I'm doing like twice a year. It is perfect. I thought it would be a small one. Oh, that is the biggest one we have so far. It's because 180 people signed up. And everything sold out. Like, this crowd is. We also have Chinese people. We have yeah. You want to see that? No, I mean, I'm not here. Oh, I do not. Oh, that's good. Yeah. Free Friday. So Friday. Ah, yeah, for a second. Oh, yeah, I can come. I'm not sure if I can hear this here.
Alright, I understand because you don't get it fast. It's like,
yeah, I think I can. Oh, is it in two? Ah, okay. Yeah, that'd be great. Because I'm kind of. I think so. He's from Taiwan. No, so you can just talk about me, no problem. Yeah, it's big Russian. That's my native language.
oh, you have to
Russian. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I speak Russian and English.
promotion here is like people are sitting in some kind of a social
没有，我是他的课，我买过他的键盘，买那键盘之后坏了，然后就把它丢了，我就不想去丢了。I'm talking about what we know each other because I tried the Vietnam before, and I tried the first and I broke up my checkpoint and I and I have the flight next day. I will fly to Tokyo, and so I go to his office after morning and fix the keyboard and bring it back to Tokyo.
That's a very good service.
That's why he have my phone.
Yeah, let's see if I can more often all day. No, I'm the creator. Yeah, I kickstarted 3 years ago. I lived in Fukushima, I did a work in Tokyo, and I still speak not all the Japanese. And we have to like grow like creativity and use a professional. Yeah. The one and 5. Yeah, I need to work on it. Like I've been starting my PhD last year. I went to school hoping to have Japanese courses for white faculty. Media or yeah, that's why I felt like I went to volunteer for this. All good. Oh, oh wow.
Although if it's smaller, it's smaller.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, I it's not like my job just got through that. They have a workshop because you're doing AI Oh, really? Oh, okay. I actually would be able to
So we are gonna move keyboards to the center. So please wrap up your bags and keyboards. 机を中央の方に、寄せたいと思いますので、椅子にある荷物とかキーボードは片付けくださいますようお願いいたします。
Yeah, I was working for a guy. Yeah, they're like, you know, I just got like, hey, can I have some money? Like, yeah, sure. But right now it's kind of professionally taxing because it's very nice. He's very good. Not really. And it just kind of discussion. Yeah, lately the students have been doing a lot more weird stuff. Like sitting here like a room of like highly professionals looking self-coaching something like that guy is whatever like you're sitting right there yeah. My working Unity project well, yeah, exactly. Oh, okay. Yeah. They are doing and you post on it. They have
even more so now.
Also big chances because this story is not that good. It's like kind of professional development. For me, I still feel like I need to do other training because when I am reading something first or I'm looking at the first for something, I feel that fundamental understanding of something. So I feel like I need to do it's like long pressure on me, except for like
But at this point, there's so much.